Hey everybody, Z Garcia here. Welcome back to 12 Games of Christmas. Today I'm going to be doing this by myself, and I'm going to be talking about games specifically for two players, or at least games I think are wonderful for two. Some of these can be played by more than two, but I recommend them for two players, alright? These are games that should be available. That's why they make it onto the list, and they are games that would make great gifts, games that perhaps you can show this list to someone else and get yourself as a gift. This is just a little taste just to put it on the radar for you so that you can look into it a little bit more. We've got reviews of pretty much all of these games. Check that out. And of course, there's a lot of content available about these games out there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it with my first pick. Let's kick things off with The Fox in the Forest Duet, which is a version of The Fox in the Forest designed just for two players. This is cooperative now. It's a trick-taking game, much like the original one, but it's really its own creation. It's a very different game from The Fox in the Forest. This one is clever. It's very interesting. You're going to be working together to figure out when you should be playing what card, play tricks together, collect those tricks, try to advance the game. I like it a lot. It's a bit of a push and pull feel to it, trying to mind meld a little bit with the player across the table from you, and I really enjoy it. Very beautiful, captivating, tiny little package, really neat stuff. So, The Fox in the Forest Duet. My next pick here is a wonderful choice for someone who loves Jurassic Park. This is Unmatched Jurassic Park InGen versus Raptors. One of the two players will be representing the Raptors attacking. There's three of them that coordinate their attacks. The other side is the InGen people, the workers, as well as Muldoon, that hunter character from the movie. And it's a very clever game. There's a lot of theme here for being just a deck of cards. And there is a board. There's some really lovely miniatures, but this is just a very engaging head-to-head game. You can expand this with the other Unmatched games and bring in all sorts of things, but this is a nice, very focused, very well-themed set that is just lovingly put together. It's got a great look to it, and I very much recommend it. If you love your card games in a more traditional fashion, then Mandala is a really good one for that. It comes with these lovely square cards. You are going to be playing cards to the center of the table or collecting cards to your own score pile and then trying to score the most points. Throughout the play, you decide what each mandala is worth to you, and that'll be different for both players. I really enjoy it. It's a very captivating little game. It has a sort of a timeless feel to it. It feels like a classic right out of the box, even though it's a very new game. And I really enjoy it. It's a theme that is lovely. You know, no one's going to have strong reactions to it one way or the other, right? So you can bring just about anybody to the table with this. And it's a soothing play. It's interesting. It's engaging. I like it a lot. Mandala. My next pick here has a little bit of everything. It's a game called Nagaraja, in which you are going to be drafting tiles, trying to win tiles. You're going to be playing cards. You're going to be rolling dice. It's got a nice amount of confrontation. You are trying to explore a temple, gather artifacts in there, win the game. It's really clever, very captivating game. Some nice cadence to it where you can play these cards to roll more dice, or you can hold the card back and surprise your opponent with a trick. Something that you give yourself a little boost, or maybe you do something to mess with them. I like it a lot. Like I said, it's very captivating. And it's a small package, but it feels bigger than the box would lead you to believe. It's a medium-sized game, but it feels like a large, very engaging activity. So I really like it a lot. Just a beautiful game. You're going to have a good time with this one, Nagaraja. Next up, I've got Kingdomino Duel, which is a roll and write, but it's a lot different than many of the roll and writes out there. You're going to be rolling a couple of dice, putting those together to represent, well, a domino, two dice put together. And then you draw that in somewhere. There's, again, some nice sort of push and pull, a tug of war over several bonuses. And if you've played Kingdomino, this is a very nice translation of that to a dice-driven game. Just for two players, but it is engaging, it's fast playing, and it surprised me very much with how captivated I found myself by this one. It's got a nice amount of tension as the opponent pulls things towards their side, and you're thinking, ooh, if they click it just one more time, I'm going to lose this bonus for the entire game, and they're going to have this nice boon. So I like it quite a bit. This is a very small package. This one is, something really tiny. So Kingdomino Duel makes a great gift. Next up, my pick is Robin of Locksley. It actually happens to be right over my shoulder over here. This is a nice one for folks who enjoy abstract games, think chess, that sort of thing, but they want more theme. They want a little bit more going on. They want some special abilities and things like that. You are going to be collecting tiles on the board by moving your pieces, kind of like pieces in chess, and then using those things to cash in sets and advance around a score track on the outside. That score track is modular, and each step along that track requires that you meet some demand to give up 3 green tiles, and you click onto the next one. Great. Now you have to have 2 different pairs. Once you do that, cash them in, move on to that one. It's a very cool game. I like it a lot. Yes, it's very abstract-ish, but it's the way that the outside is built every game turns it into a very different race to the finish line, which means the replayability is very lovely. So, Robin of Locksley. Speaking of tiles, my next pick, which is called Paris, the City of Lights, is a tile-laying game for just 2 players in which you are going to be playing actually 2 levels of tiles. You're building the streets, and then you are deploying buildings on top of that. But you do it on a restricted board. So right away, you're bumping up against the sides, and your opponent places a tile that cuts off what you were hoping would be a nice chunk of area for you to build on. You can only build on your color, you see. I really like it. It's got a lot more than you would think is in there, with little lamps and special abilities, special tiles that if you earn, then you can put into place and your opponent cannot. It's one that I'm worried is definitely going to fly under the radar, but it's got a distinct, unique look. It's got a cool vibe to it. It's very, it makes me think of like a kind of like a dreamy night. It's got that vibe going on with it. So if you're looking for maybe a nice date game, something for a wine lover in your life, that sort of thing, I don't know. This one kind of gives me that feeling. So that is Paris, the City of Lights. My next pick, called Monolith Arena, is a game you could play with more than 2. You could play up to 4, but I recommend it at 2. This is a fantasy version, kind of Neuroshima Hex, a game I talk about a lot personally, but this one's a little friendlier as a point of entry. It's got some really neat fantasy races, and it's a very tactical game. It's sort of a combat game, if you would, but you do that by placing tiles out, and eventually when a fight is triggered, then you figure out what happens. This guy shoots that guy throws a sword at this guy, and you are trying to, win the whole thing, right? This is a large box. This is a chunky game. There's a very beautiful, expansive artwork, very lovely looking game. And if you know someone who loves their fantasy, but they like high tactics, then this is a great pick for that. Monolith Arena. I started off the list with a trick-taking game for 2 players. Those are rare. Well, here's another one. This is called Claim, and Claim is not cooperative. This is competitive. It's a competitive 2-player card game in which you are going to have various fantasy races. You play cards and lead a suit and follow suit, all those trick-taking things, and you play 2 whole hands, and at the end, every character you've captured, you count those up and see if you win, controlling the different clans. You got your knights and your elves and your goblins, all of that stuff. Somehow they managed to make it feel very much like a trick-taking game, which is normally for more players, into a little package. Plus, if they get really hooked, the person you give this to as a gift, there are expansions galore for Claim. So this is a good one. Pocket-sized game, really engaging stuff. Alright, for my next one, let's turn up the strategy a little bit, and we're talking here about Targi. Targi is a very thinky card game. It's got a little worker placement, and you are going to be collecting sets, managing some resources, buying different cards, and playing them out in front of you, building up a tableau, if you would. I really like this game. It's one of my absolute favorites across any list, 2 players or otherwise. And while the theme is sort of not particularly exciting, the gameplay, the thinkiness of it is superb. It's right at the top of the list of games I love to play when I feel like, puzzling something out, butting heads with my opponent. Targi. Really check this one out. I love card drafting games, but a lot of them don't really work with 2 players. This is one that does. Then there's 7 Wonders Duel. That's a great pick. But another one that's fantastic, isn't as popular. A game called Caper, in which you are drafting your thieves, sending them out to different cities to commit your heists. And you are trying to control different places in the city, trying to gather all this sort of kooky-looking spy stuff and get the most points. The look of this game, really, really cool. The quality of the production, beyond superb. And I just love the entire thing. The entire package is one that I don't think I ever sit down to play this game and play it just once. I think you're going to like it if you like drafting and you want a game that does that for 2 players, just for 2. Caper. Okay, I'm going to round this out with a game called Kero, as in kerosene. This one is very different. It's got dice rolling, but it's timed dice rolling, and you have these insane-looking sand timers that are inside plastic trucks. And you're going to be tipping this thing while you quickly roll dice. Once you stop, you can sort of right the truck again. The sand will stop flowing. You're collecting things. Every now and then you need to refill your tanker, right? So you are going to flip it the other way while your opponent tries to stop you refilling by rolling their own dice very quickly. It's dynamic. It's sort of like a whiz-bang kind of game. It's sort of crazy. And I love it. The look is fantastic. The theme is all freaky and post-apocalyptic. And it's a small design. It's a fairly simple, straightforward game with that one big eye hook, right? That visual pow. Those sand timer trucks. I really like it. So that's Kero. All right, so that's going to be my list of 12 games, everybody. Hopefully you find at least one in here that maybe you haven't heard about and piques your interest, right? Something that looks really engaging and unique. A lot of these are very unique, even across the 12. So there you go. Happy holidays to you. I hope you find some cool games. Make sure you, of course, check out the rest of our 12 games of Christmas lists for more shopping ideas, or maybe even, hey, buying ideas, right? It's all good. All right, everybody. Once again, happy holidays. My name is Z Garcia. I want to see you on the next one.